The year is 1946. That's the year this building was born. That's when its heartbeat began. A heartbeat that could be felt through the community, as well as a heartbeat that kept one of the greatest railroads of all time alive, the Great Northern. And it's still alive today. That and the BNSF, but this building, this terminal, not only kept a community going, but it kept a railroad going. This building wasn't turned into a coffee shop or a boutique. This building was built for the railroad and has been used by the railroad ever since it was born. We're going to join a former Great Northern, Burlington Northern, and BNSF employee through this great building to learn a little bit more about it and, well, wish it well for future years to come. Let's go take a look inside.
This is Willmar Depot, BNSF Willmar Depot. My name is Gary Nelson, and this is Jack Kjos, and we're both from Willmar. But anyway, I began my career here in the building that we're standing at, and I made my first trip from this location on September 19th, 1967. And I remember it very, very well. It was on train number 99 and went up to Breckenridge. We worked from Willmar to Breckenridge, which is 113 miles. And we laid over in Breckenridge and then returned after our rest period. And then we also worked from Willmar to Minneapolis Junction, which is 93 miles. And we'd tie up there and then return after we got our rest. But Willmar was also the source of supply for the passenger trains that were operated on the Willmar Division. And in 1967, those were 4 trains. There was number 31 and number 32, the Empire Builder, and number 27, the westbound Western Star, and train number 14, which is Red River train, which originally began on the St. Cloud line. But in 1962, they shifted it over on the Willmar side, so that the number 28, the eastbound Western Star, went through St. Cloud. They made these changes from time to time quite often. 90-some years old, he was a
fireman guy.
Yes. Oh, look at that. Yeah, no, that's something that.
What do you think? I mean, aero-wise, this was built originally in here?
Oh, I bet.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Just think of all the mysteries that came out of that safe through the years.
And then what is this room currently used as? This is your office?
Just my office.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a storage room for a handful of years.
This would have been the baggage door, I believe. Yeah, this is it. See how...
Yeah, because Collins used to...
Yeah, this was the baggage door.
I remember the baggage carts coming out here.
Yeah.
Collins' office was in here, and he...
The baggage carts and the mail truck would come down here. So they should be like straight across from one another. We are in the passenger waiting area. Of course, these
It
walls,
doesn't look like much waiting here.
No. With the doors on each side, you know, the street side where the passengers would come in. and then they had the rows of chairs and things like that. And then
Yeah.
the ticket counter would be over here, running from north to south and facing west. That's where the
How far down was that?
that would be, you know, it's hard to tell with the changes that have been done. So the relay office was basically in the center here. The relay office is where the telegraphers and the train register. There was a window there, train register. Every train needed a clearance at Willmar to go either direction. But there was 2 or 3 people. There was an operator. I think they also did the dispatching for some of the branch lines too, like the Willmar to Sioux City lines and things like that.
Where shall we move to next?
Well, the next area would be, here's the original window right here. So the conductors, the train register would be right here, and this is where your conductors would register. Some would register by ticket, like
Oh, really?
John Healing on the Empire Bill,
Right.
or Emil Swenson on the Western Star. Your passenger trains would register with a ticket. But on other trains, this is where you sign the register. And then just on the opposite side over here was like an identical side. Well, maybe it was bigger windows. Right over, that was where the yard office was. And that's where the tag boards were, with all the different colors. They had green, yellow, red, and they denoted conductors, brakemen, so on and so forth. The engineers weren't on here because that was done at the roundhouse. They had their own board. There was a trainman's locker room.
Okay.
Yeah, the conductors and brakemen. Well, here it still is.
Still a locker room there.
Yeah.
Still there. Still used.
Storage, primarily, I think. I was down here about, oh gosh, 20 years ago, and the yard master was a good friend of mine, and they had file cabinets with employee records in it,
Yeah.
and I believe they were alphabetical, and I looked for my dad's, but it wasn't there. And
Did you find yours?
No, I didn't. I didn't even think to look for mine. Yeah.
It looks like you just had water fountains out here at one time. This must have been a furnace room, huh? Then we have no smoking over here.
Oh yeah.
All storage now.
You got windows on both sides, yeah. In fact, it's almost the same color as the interior of cabooses.
Probably had a lot of that color paint.
Yeah. There were smaller segments and offices, you know. For instance, later I'll point out the approximate area of the claim agent, who his name was Pat Hurley, very nice fella. And in Western Fruit, the agent for Western Fruit was Flattabo. There's a lot of pride in this community for railroaders.
A lot of people rode the train between here and the Twin Cities,
Oh.
go in the morning, do their shopping, come back in the evening.
Yeah, they could go down on 32, the builder. If they were early risers, they leave here at 4:10 and in the morning, and they could spend a whole day, and they'd get on board number 31, the westbound Empire Builder, at 9:05, and be back up here about an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
So, and likewise, you could go down on number 28, the eastbound Western Star, in the afternoon, and spend the evening or whatever, and then you could come back on number 27 the following morning if you were going to stay over the night. In fact, it's probably got a plate on it. They're all, oh, somebody stole the plate. it would have said GN. It was a brass, typically a brass plate, and you can see where it's missing. But this was baggage, yeah. No, I think it was just a way of identifying it in case it was lost or stolen or
There you go.
inventory-wise. Somewhere there was a record of all of these items. Oh, there's another one, yeah.
And the ST, is that an indicator of anything?
Store department, maybe. Store, that's a store department number. GN 2065 ST. I would say store.
What's this other one say down here?
Oh, is there not more? Oh, there was one there.
Oh, it's there, but can't read it.
Oh, it is.
Oh, there's a plate there, sure.
Huh.
There's another plate, and that's probably the manufacturer of the actual.
That could
Yeah.
be. Mm-hmm.
Boy, you had to be strong because these aren't exactly light.
A lot of harder things.
Right.
Look at the wheels on it too, steel. Good bearings. I see they're keeping it for all this heavy stuff over here.
Yeah.
It's a nice piece of cardboard they had stored on it.
Yeah.
Did you see that map? Has a logo on it that's very interesting.
Which one? This one?
1944. The dependable railroad between the Great Lakes and the Pacific.
Oh.
It was very important at that time because there's a lot of traffic on the Great Lakes. I bet, especially during the war. Last time I was up there, this was all model trains.
Yeah, I participated in an open house here. I had a whole bunch of memorabilia. At one time, they had 21 divisions, and then they consolidated them down to about, I think currently there may be like 12.
That's a big change
So,
with that many
yeah.
railroads.
All this here was lined up with desks all the way down to at least that entryway there. And this is where your individual timekeepers would sit at their desks. For instance, say one timekeeper might strictly be in charge of Minneapolis or Twin Cities switchman. Another timekeeper might be strictly dealing with conductors and brakemen from Willmar, and of course as it goes west. There were, with the exception of a couple of local trains, and that would be the Hutch Local and the Malacca job. Hutch Local was operated by the Willmar man. Malacca was operated by the St. Cloud man. The Great Northern didn't have any trainmen per se headquartered in Minneapolis. Willmar was the base for all.
Oh, really?
Now, we had senior guys that worked passenger a lot that literally moved to St. Paul or Minneapolis because they could hold passenger year round. But when they went on vacation or whatever,
They all came out of Willmar.
They were relieved by people from Willmar because all these jobs, the mainline passenger and freight on the Willmar line, you had the Hutch Local. These are all Willmar jobs. You had the Browns Valley Local. You had the Huron Local. You had the Aberdeen Local, which actually ran out of Breckenridge to Aberdeen and then back to Rutland, tied up for the night, made a side trip to Forbes, and then came back into Breckenridge. The Watertown, yeah, that
was out of here,
529 and 530 was that train.
And a lot of those. How many of those are doodle bugs?
Back in the day, the doodle bugs ended in September of 1959.
Okay.
The Doodlebug that ran from Willmar, Benson, Watertown to Huron was trains 185 and 186.
Down to Huron.
Down to Huron and back, yeah. The Doodlebug, or the, well, it wasn't a Doodlebug, the local branch line passenger train on the, it was a combination train.
Right.
On the Hutch was train 61 and 60. And I'm trying to think, there was some other, they all had numbers, but I can't remember all of them.
I always think of the Hutchinson one because it had its own caboose.
Yeah, the X181, very unique, as you know. Yeah, this is a good view.
Look at this one, guy.
That's a system, yeah, there's the system, yeah. Yeah, that would be 1 year after the...
So when it goes south out of Willmar, all the way to Kansas City?
Yeah, well, you go down to Sioux Falls, Sioux City, and then it runs down to Ashland, Omaha, Lincoln. This January 1996 would be actually the origin of the BNSF. The merger occurred on September 22nd, 1995, but technically it wasn't the BNSF until January 96. So this would be an original first-time merger map.
So I could go every place except from Sacramento to Baker.
Right.
On BNSF.
And now you can, because you got trackage rates down there. So
they got that.
Yeah, you know, all your back in before the mergers and stuff, if you had lumber for Texas, it would come over to Havre down to Great Falls, Billings, go down to Kew, go this way, and it had to go all the way around to stay on the same railroad. Yeah.
So when the fuselages that were Boeing, how did that go then?
So it would go up either this way or this way, up here to Willmar, and then west. 420 had the loaded Boeing cars going north, headed for Everett, and 419 would handle the empty cars, because whether those canopy cars were empty or loaded,
they were
the
too
restriction,
big.
too tall. So then they would, the 419 would handle the empties back in a reverse movement. So your 88 trains that needed ice or something would occasionally go down 16 in the extension.
Okay.
Because I remember when I started braking, and in order sometimes you come up with a phrase or something to remember an item. Well, the phrase I made up in my mind to remember when you want to go into track 16 is, I would say to myself, yellow, 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 green gets you to 16.
Yeah.
So I need 2 yellow targets and a green, then you're in 16. Right about here was the dispatcher's room. Yeah, this is the dispatcher's room. And he had this big CTC board that went from Wayzata, beginning CTC, Wayzata, to milepost 214 at Breckenridge.
Really?
And then right next door to that, this was the Herb Walker's office. He was the chief clerk. And he had a door that could go into the dispatcher's office. And then the next door down here was the train master's job. Prior to it being a train master, this job, the ranking officer in Willmar, and up until about 1966 was assistant superintendent, and that was Paul Rasmussen. Prior to that, the whole division superintendent was here in this building, and Cameron sticks into my mind. He was the superintendent here for a long time. But then they moved the superintendency to Minneapolis, to the Great Northern Depot upstairs. And then they downgraded this to assistant superintendent. And Paul Rasmussen held that position until about 1966, at which time he got appointed superintendent at Grand Forks. And the person who assumed this position after him was not an assistant superintendent. He was a train master. So anyway, this is the train master's
Train
office.
master is now the head of the things in town here.
Pardon me?
Train master would be the people in charge of things right here in Willmar now.
Actually, it's called, that would be Ben Griffiths, and he's a terminal manager.
Terminal manager.
Yeah,
Okay,
terminal
now.
manager, yeah. And this, I'm not sure. I think this might have been, somewhere in here was the beginning of this whole end down here was, hey, how are you guys? This is all disbursement accounting. This is they had a whole array of clerks, just like they had on that end. But that end dealt with payroll, and this end paid the bills of the Great Northern Railroad between Twin Cities and Bainville. Now, an interesting thing, if you've been to Havre, Havre's got the identical building.
Oh, it's identical to this one?
It is. It is. I can't state to the fact or not. It's as long, but it's built the same way.
So now we're going to go down back to the main floor.
Yeah.
And then finish out on the east end of the depot.
Yep, exactly. I remember back in the it was actually in the 70s. It was after a merger, and there was some switchmen here, and one of them was going to retire. And I think they were Johnsons. They were like cousins or something like that. So they're going to have a coffee party here for them. But the one Johnson had a horse. And so they opened the door, and he rode the horse in here, and that guy's coffee party included a horse.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Oh yeah, those were the days when
You could have a little fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Very little.
Yeah. So.
Okay, what are we going into now?
Well, this was locker room over here too before, and then this was the art office. I bet came back to at least here.
Went back that far?
Yeah, because the remainder of the building.
Oh, you can see on the floor.
Yeah, yep. The remainder of the building from this point on. So the art office comes this far, and the remainder of the building was the claim agent and the WFE.
Isn't it fun to see it still being used, though?
Oh goodness, yes.
Thank you. Here we come.
Right.
Back out in the sunshine again.
Yeah.
This building's future looks bright. A big thanks to Gary and Jack for taking the time to walk through this old relic, to share the stories of what happened in the past and what the building is currently being used for. It's being used for the railroad. But we all know this building wouldn't be where it's at if it weren't for the people. And well, things are looking bright. For those people that walked in and out of these doors, whether it was to board a train or show up for a day's work, it's those people that gave this building a heartbeat. It's those people that brought the railroad to life. So when you're just driving through a town and you look out your window and say, oh, there's a depot, that building had a purpose. This building has a purpose. And the purpose was bringing the community together. That heartbeat for the railroad. Because if it weren't for this building, well, these cars wouldn't move. If it weren't for the people, those locomotives wouldn't move. And if it wasn't for a building like the Willmar Depot, well, things would be a lot different. So next time you're cruising down the road and you look out your window and you see a building like that, think about the heartbeat. Think about the people.